Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Now we are beginning today's classes and continuing what we've done up to now. What have we done up to now? We've been talking about the relationship between God and the Jewish people when there was a temple in the Beit HaMikdash, the holy house, and now when there is none. So what is really the difference? So it's not really talking that much about what exactly happened when there was a holy temple, but we've talked about that a lot, that the whole essence of the Jewish people is this physical world. And the ideal, prototype of our goal is the holy temple. The holy temple was a physical building in the world, and the essence of God was revealed there. Now, what it means exactly, the essence of God, it's not really, they say, comprehensible by us, because the angels are going berserk. The angels, we don't know what an angel is. It's just one angel. Person saw an angel, he would go crazy. An angel, we don't know what the angel. And the angels, they're going crazy for the essence of God. And where is the essence of God revealed? In the holy temple. And the Jews would go to the holy temple regularly, but in the Holy of Holies, they didn't go. So God is everywhere, but God is not revealed everywhere. And when God is revealed, it's not a it's not a intellectual or even spiritual experience. It's an experience beyond, comprehension. That's why the angels are going crazy, because they don't comprehend it. As great as the angels are, they don't. Okay, so, and that's revealed in the holy temple. If the Jews had not sinned with the golden calf, is that revelation would go with them when they went into the land of Israel, and it would be in the whole world. But they did sin with the golden calf, which is a repetition of the sin which was like 2,500 years earlier with Adam, that he sinned with eating the tree. So the same thing happened. What happened is that man started living under the umbrella of understanding, and life couldn't go above understanding. The angels, that they're realized that God is above understanding, they're going crazy for it. And we are supposed to reveal this in a settled way, in a practical way, in this world. That's the reason the world was created. Okay, so but that's when there was a holy temple. When there is no holy temple today, at least not physically. It says the spiritual temple always is, and every single Jew is in a way a holy temple. Okay, but what we do have is the essence of the holy temple, which was the essence of the holy temple, the Torah, the tablets. In the second temple, the tablets were also there, but they were hidden. They were concealed. They were down, which that's also pretty bad. Oh, but before we start, let's give charity. Let's not forget the main thing. Here we go. Charity. Ready? Charity. Charity saves from, here's charity, saves from all bad things. Someone who's sick, someone who's well, it saves from the worst things, and it brings the best things. It brings the future redemption. Charity. And let us also praise the creator of the universe. Hodu Lashem, Kitov, Kilo Chazdo. Thank you, God. You are really good, and the world is filled with your kindness, and your kindness is infinite. Okay. So what do we say? We said nowadays, by learning the Torah, we simulate what there was in the Holy Temple. Because what was in the Holy of Holies? What was there in the Holy Temple? There was the Torah, and the Torah was in an ark, in this box. And the box had a golden cover to it. And from this cover was pounded up two faces of angels, it says, with wings. And they were facing each other. And this, remember we said that's the face of God to us. That's the Torah. It's on the box where the Torah was. So these are two manifestations of the Torah. The Torah, one angel, one of these statues was God's giving the Torah to us. And the other aspect is how we react to the Torah, learn the Torah with love of God and etc. And that's the other one going face to face. Remember, so God gets pleasure from us. When we learn his Torah, that's his face to us, and we get blessing from God. That's when God reacts to how we learn the Torah. Of course, God is the one who acts first. He gave us the Torah. So that's the two faces. Then the Jewish people were like brothers. And that's what King Solomon says, you would only be a brother to me again. Now, that's God saying to the Jewish people, and the Jewish people saying to God. And so that's what it means that okay, so let's go back to the sentence. This is all one sentence from Psalm of Psalms, which I did download. I did my homework yesterday. Here it is. Ready? Eighth chapter, the final chapter of the Song of Songs. Mi Yitencha, that's the title of this essay with it. By the way, this is written by the first Rebbe of Chabad, right? First Rebbe of Chabad, Rabbi Shneur Zalman. He's the founder of, he wrote the Tanya. Mi Yitencha ka'achli. Who would make it that you were like a brother to me? Right? Like it was in the Holy Temple, when the two cherubim, two statues on the ark were facing one another. Yonek Shadei Imi, nursing from the mother, from the breasts of my mother. What did we say that was? Remember yesterday? We're making a test. Who remembers? This is talking about the Talmud, what's called the oral Torah, Torah Shabbat Peh, the explanations. That's called the explanations of the Torah. That's my mother's Torah. The written Torah, that's called the wisdom of my father in Mishle, the book of Proverbs. So nowadays, when we learn the Talmud and we understand the ideas that are written in the Torah, and that brings us, and we do that with love of God and awareness of God and fear of God, so that simulates the same relationship we had in the Holy Temple. And it also says, I will find you outside. I will kiss you. Gam lo yabuzuli, and they will not shame me. What is this talking about? King Solomon is saying. So let's go. Ready? What's it talking about? Here it goes. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Okay, that's where we are. By the way, it says, what does it mean? I will nurse from the breasts of my mother here. Remember we said this? Nursing from the breasts of my mother. So it says a baby, when he nurses from his mother's breasts, so it makes the child grow, and his mother also is pleased to give suckle to her child. And the same thing, that's the oral Torah, Torah Shabbat Peh, that nourishes us, and it also gives pleasure to God when we learn the Torah. Good? All right, now let us. Now, of course, that sounds ridiculous. What does it mean that God gets pleasure? But the whole thing is ridiculous. What does it mean that God gave us a Torah and he spoke these words? God spoke words, and everybody heard him speak these words, and it has to be exactly right. The whole thing doesn't make any sense. But it's true. The world doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that God is creating us. It's above sense. It's above sense. That after you die, you're going to go to heaven, and then you're going to get a big reward. That sort of makes sense. You see, everybody dies, right? People that were alive, all of a sudden they're dead. They're just gone. They must be somewhere. So even your logic tells you it could be that Uncle Joe or Yorick or whatever his name is, his fellow of infinite jest, and where did he go? To be or not to be? That's the question. After you die, it could be that you still exist. So what's going to be after you die? So you learn the Torah and you go to heaven. That sort of makes sense. But to say that God creates us and he cares what we do and that he reacts to what we do, he wants to be revealed in the world, that makes no sense. That's God. Makes no sense. You want to put God into your pocket, into your bank account or something like that, you can do it if you want to, but that's not really reality. Another the Rebbe is trying to tell us what real reality is, and that's real love, that we can really love God unconditionally, is when we realize that the whole business is unconditional. The whole thing doesn't make any sense, but it's true. The Rebbe is trying to, that's what a Rebbe is. The Torah. Okay, so what does it mean? So that's what it says, that by means of this is revealing the pleasure, it says, in heaven, that it's going to be revealed here in the world, and we get a little on God. It says he comes into heaven and he gets pleasure with the tzaddikim in heaven, and everything is by means of learning the Torah. That's why it says that anyone who learns Torah every day, that he is going to get the world to come. What is the world to come? The revelation of heaven, even in this world. Okay. And that's what it means. I'm nursing the breast of my mother, etc. What does it mean? I will find him outside. King Solomon said, what does it mean? I will find him outside. Akai al Bali Asakim. This is talking about businessmen. What are we going to do? Learn the Torah all day? That's not much of an improvement of sitting on a mountain or being a monk or something like that. What about people that work? I mean, that's 99, it should be 99% of 99.9% of all of the Jewish people, they work. They work. Even the people who learn the Torah, they learn. The very few people sit and learn the Torah all day, their whole life. And what are you supposed to do? Not work and just God will provide for you everything? It doesn't work that way. It says that the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai did it and it worked, and other people tried to do it and it didn't work. It doesn't work. You have to work in the world. You have to be good. When you work in the world, it has to be on God's terms, and it has to be just enough, not too much, right? And the extra that you have to give charity to. It says, Kalibah, that what King Solomon says, I will find him outside. I will find you. I'm sorry, outside. This is talking about we can find God not only in learning the Torah, not only in doing the commandments, not only in the holy temple, but also in the physical world, in doing business, even though but Torah, even these are the people that cannot learn Torah all day, constantly, that they can be in this level we talked about before of nursing from the breasts of my mother, which we said before. That's the Torah, that's the oral, the explanation of the Torah, by means of the four, by making your life totally within the realm of Torah law. Not everybody can do this, but nevertheless, it says, nevertheless, I can find God not only in the Torah, but also outside in the business world. And they will also be like a brother to me, will also be face to face with God, like it was in the Holy of Holies, these two faces. How can it be? The Inyan is like this. We find that by God, it says also, Lashon Koneh. We find that God also is a businessman. We find that God also purchases things. Koneh means to purchase something. Now, how do you purchase something? What do? You go into a store, you go to somebody and to see the ad of somebody wants to sell a car. So you pay the person money and you draw the car into your possession. That's called koneh. Koneh means that it goes from the seller's possession to the buyer's possession. Like it says, koneh shamayim va'oretz, and it says that God, he purchases, he takes possession of the heavens and the earth. He takes it out of one domain and brings it into his domain. What does that mean? Omer, as all the rabbis say, Chamishi Kanyanim, there are 5 possessions that God took possession of. So God takes possession, he, so to speak, he buys, he purchases, the heavens and the earth. What does that mean? It says 6 days God made the heavens and the earth. And the 7th day, Shabbos, he rested. All Shabbat, every single Shabbat is called the 7th day. Right? God made the world in 6 days, and the 7th day he rested. So let's say when God made the world, each day was 24 hours, exactly, just like us. Which, why not? I mean, if you can create, the question is why it took so long to create the world. Why did he have to, God could have created the whole thing in just one instant, the whole business, poop. Why did he have to schlep it out for 7 days? Why? That makes no sense. So some people say, well, that makes a little bit of sense. Every day is like a million years, and there's a time warp and the speed of light and stuff like that. So really, every day was really a trillion years. Does that explain anything? That makes even a bigger question. Why did he have to schlep it up for a trillion years for? God, if God creating anything, so he could create it in one instant, why did he create it in 7 days? And why are our days right now 24 hours? So there's a book called Sefer Yetzirah, and it says there's very deep Kabbalistic secrets behind the number 7 and between the number 24 and the number 12, right? 12 hours of the day, 12 hours. Nevertheless, God created the world in 6 days, and the 7th day is called Shabbat. And every Shabbat we come to is called the 7th day, Shabbat LaHashem. At first glance, how could it possibly be that every Shabbat since the creation of the world is called the 7 days? It's called the 7th day. Shari Kavar Avru Rabavos Yamin. There's millions of days that have passed from the day that the world was created until this Shabbat. Right? The world was created, let's go according to Judaism, which is the truth. The world was created 5,786 years ago. Multiply that by 52, and that's how many Shabbos there were. Right? 52, right? Weeks in the year. Is that right? Yeah, 52 weeks in the year. Multiply that by 5,700. What it is? You want to do it? Let's do it. Here we go. That'll tell you how many Shabbos there are in the world. Let's have a computer. Some people can do this in their head. Here we go. Ready, yes. 5,786 times 52 equals 300,000. Oh, so not a million. I was wrong. 300,872. So let's say 300,000, 1,000 Shabbos. So if so, this is not Yom Shvi, right? Then multiply that by 7. Let's multiply that by 7. Times 7. Oh, now you get 2 million. So there's 2,100,000 days from the beginning of the creation of the world. So when it comes to this coming Shabbos should be not the Yom Shvi'i. This shouldn't be the 7th day. This coming Shabbos should be Yom Ha 2,106,104, 110 days. Huh? 2 million. This is the day, 2 millionth day since the world was created. How did he get the 7th day? Why is it the 7th day? It's not the 7th day. A lot of days have passed. So it says, why? Because, yes, there's already hundreds of thousands of days. But this 6 days, these are the 6 emotions of God. That in them and through them, there was the creation of all of the worlds. God has a personality, and this personality is expressed in the world, like we said a million times in this class. We said it thousands of times in this class. The whole purpose of Judaism and of the Torah is to tell us that this physical world in every detail is very, very important to God right now. And that God is creating the world from his self, his emotions. And God's self, God has emotions, God has a personality. That's the whole thing of the Torah. God speaks to us, we speak to God, God gets angry, God gets pleased. So we see there's an interaction between us and God. The whole world is an expression of God's personality. The world was created in 7 days because this corresponds to the 7 emotions of God. The first day, this is a revelation of God's kindness. That's when light was created, and etc. The second day was Gevura, God's power. That's when the division was created. And afterwards comes Shabbat. Shabbat is elevating all of the worlds back to their source. Shabbat is the grand finale. Huh? Like a house, you build a house, and when the main thing is when the house is finished. As soon as the house is finished, or a painter makes a picture, whatever, a composer makes a symphony. So the main thing is when the whole thing is finished, the completion of it. Right? If it's not complete, right, everybody in the crowd says, "Hey, where's the last movement? What happened?" Right? The house is almost finished. It's just missing, all the doors and the front. What is that? The house is not finished. As soon as the house is finished, you put the finishing touches. What do you have? The whole house. The same thing. God made the whole world 7 days. That's it. The whole thing is finished. God revealed himself. And every week, this process repeats itself. So the world is supposed to remind us of God, the Creator. Also, it is every single Shabbat, the 6 days of creation. That is how God comes down, so to speak. It's reminding us that God came down and created the world. But on Shabbat is the day when God is satisfied. He sees the finished product. The finished product. So all of his energy that God put into the world, so to speak, it comes back to him. Now, again, don't take this too literally. But on the other hand, you have to take it literally. I mean, it's true. All of the energy comes back to God. This is what's called the elevation of the worlds. Elevating all the worlds that they come up. Davka biyom umida tashvis. That's the number 7. And what is the number 7 in the sphirot, in the aspects of God? We talked about the whole thing is God. That's the lowest of all of them. That's what's called malchut. That, if you want to say, that's God's mouth. All the other aspects, the 6 aspects of God, that's God's right arm, God's left arm, God's body, etc., his legs. That's chesed, gavura, tiferet. Malchut is the completion. God's speech. And that's when everything is completed. That's when everything goes back up. That's what it means. And look in the Bible, you'll see. It says that God created the first day, God created light. That's the 6th day, created man. And that's it. Yom HaShishi, the 6th day was finished. The heavens and the earth were finished. Vayechulu means that we're finished. But the word Vayechulu also refers to kalta nafshi. It means to go up, to expire, to be raised up. L'cha dodi likrat kala. Kala means that the whole world, so to speak, goes up to its source. Shabbat is the day that we realize that there was a creator and that the world was created for a purpose. And that purpose, so to speak, was finished on the 6th day. And what is that purpose? To do what the creator wants. That's Shabbat. Shabbat reminds us there's the creator and there's a purpose of the creation. Everything. But what happens what happens on the other 6 days? God, so to speak, is selling. He's going out. And the world goes, so to speak, out of his domain. It becomes the world. And on Shabbat, everything goes back up to its source. Then God takes possession of it again. God takes possession of the world. That's what it means that God also is a businessman. He takes possession of the world. That's Shabbat. This is like a kinyan. This is like a purchase. Shalokeach, that the purchaser, first of all, gives money. That's like God creating the world for 6 days. To the one who is buying, that's us. And by means of this, Makabel, he then afterwards he pulls the thing he's buying, the item, into his possession. That's Shabbat. God, so to speak, takes the whole possession back into his domain. You read this in Midos. So it is by means of God putting out, expending, so to speak, his emotions and creating the world in the 6 days of the creation, Levorer and Itzutzos, by means of this, that what? That God creates the world for a purpose. What? That we should work in the world and we should elevate the sparks of meaning in the world and attach them to their source. By means of this, there is drawn down Hamshachat, a revelation of Shabbat from what's called, from the world, which is called the world of separation, the mountains of separation, which is called the public domain, into Rishuta Yachid, which is the private domain of God. And that's the whole idea that God makes a purchase. Kinyan Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Alder says similarly, it's also the idea. Okay, so that's the whole idea. I know we brought this example 1,000 times, and I'll bring it 1,000 more times. But what it's like buying a puzzle. You go to one of these, whatever it is, the toy stores or whatever. You buy a puzzle. It's a 1 million piece puzzle, and you open up the puzzle. You take it home. There's a picture on the front, what it's supposed to look like, right? It's what it's supposed to look like. And you open up the puzzle, and there are 100 million pieces in it. And you look at the instructions, what's going on? There's more than, he said, this is a 1 million piece puzzle, right? 99 million pieces are extraneous. You have to get rid of them. And 1 million are the real ones, and those you have to put together, you get a picture. So the whole week you have to avoid the bad. That's the prohibitions in the Torah. And you have to do the good. That's putting everything together and working in your business in an honest way, and etc. And then after the whole thing is finished, you look and you see, and there's the finished picture. And that's something like God creating the world for the 6 days. And on the seventh day, when everything is put together, so God gets pleasure. And that's called that God is a businessman. And we're talking about that's what it means that we can find God outside. We said, now that there's a temple, what did King Solomon say? I will find you outside here. Let's see. Here it says, okay. It says, I will find you outside. So this is going outside. That's like a businessman. So God is also a businessman. 6 days he puts out his energy, and on the seventh day, that Shabbat, he takes possession. Yeah. Also, that's the whole idea of the God is a businessman. Also, the same thing, the exile of the Jewish people. The Jewish people went into exile, and after that, they went into exile in Babylon. And after that, we went into exile when the first temple was destroyed. The second temple was destroyed. Now we're also in exile. This is by means of this. Why did God put us in this crazy, confused world? It's like a puzzle. Before it's all put together, so that we should elevate these sparks. We should put the good things together, and in the shamas, these are the and so that the sparks can come and be put together. For instance, the souls of Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Meir, and Ovadia, the prophet Ovadia. Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Meir were both sons of Rabbi Meir, and he was the son of converts, and so was and Ovadia. He was himself was a convert. The prophecy, look in the prophecy of Ovadia. It's one chapter. Ovadia. He talks a lot about what's going to happen to the non-Jews, our enemies, when Mashiach comes. One chapter. Ovadia. He was a convert. Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Akiva, they were the sons of converts or grandsons of converts. In other words, to take the world and to take out from the world godliness. Similarly, it also says in Kriya Shema, that you should gather together your grains. What does it mean, gather your grains? You should gather together all of the sparks of meaning in the world and unite them to the creator of the universe through the Torah. In other words, you use the world for what God wants you to. That makes order and revelation of the creator in his creation. And then it becomes easier to, when you're unifying with God's oneness, then it becomes easier to love God. Hainu, namely, she'osek b'masav amatan, that when you're in the world, you are a businessman in the world, or whatever you do, but you're in the world not learning Torah. Right? You haven't got time. You have to make a living. In order to parnas it atzmo, in order to provide for yourself or your family. She said, you read it, this is a tremendous descent. Right, we should be learning Torah and stuff, but nevertheless, by means of this, afterwards, that's like the 6 days. God does the same thing. The 6 days of the week, God made mundane. He made the world, and on the seventh day, and afterwards, everything goes back up to its source. How does it go back up to its source? When you use the Torah, when you use the money and the food and the clothes and the house that you earned, that you made in the weekdays, and you use that to pray to God or to learn Torah. And you say, God, you are one, and I love God with all of my heart. Therefore, prayer is called Ola Tamid. So here we have 2 ways now of connecting ourselves to God and reinstating the relationship that we had when there was a holy temple, and on the Torah, on the ark of the Torah, there were the 2 angels facing each other. Well, and they were called brothers. Well, we can do that now also. The people who learn Torah by learning Torah, and regular, normal people like me and you by means of being honest in life and praying to God. And when we pray to God, we think about God, and that elevates all of our energy. And if we didn't eat, we wouldn't have power to pray. And if we didn't have clothes, we'd be concerned with that. So therefore, it elevates everything that we use in the week to serve the Creator, weekdays. And that raises up what's called the sparks of meaning, the sparks of godliness, of creation in the world. It puts it together. The call of tefillos and all the weekdays, they are elevated on the prayer of Shabbat. And that's what it means. I found him outside. Shagama Bali Asikim, that also the working men, Yimsa'o, can also find God outside in the world. Why? By means of their business, mitalim and itzusos, they elevate what's called the sparks of meaning, the sparks of life, the sparks of godliness in the world. When we say, God, you are one. The Kol Yisrael and all the Jewish people, Makayim said, they can do this and they will do this and they are doing it. Shari Dina, the Gemara, the law of the Torah is Sheparsha Rishona, the Kriya Shema Tzorech Kavana. That the first sentence, it's a commandment in the Torah to say Shema Yisrael twice. It's a sentence in the Bible, right? It's a sentence to say it, but you have to think about what it means. And essentially what it means is that God is one. God is one means that God is creating everything in the world and everything is important to God. That's the motto of Judaism. God is one means there's nothing outside of God. Everything that exists, God is creating it. And when we think of that in the weekday, then we realize that the world is, how do you say, it's a wonderful world. It's an amazing, miraculous world here. Everything, including ourselves. That's called elevating the whole world to God. The Divrei HaKol, according to everyone, the first sentence of Shema Yisrael, these first 6 words, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, you have to have intention. You have to understand what they mean. You have to understand, what does it mean, the oneness of God? According to some opinions, there was the Chidah. He said even non-Jews should say the sentence and understand what it means. And that's the idea of Mesirut Nefesh. That's the idea of self-sacrifice be'echad. So what does self-sacrifice mean? Self-sacrifice means you don't think about yourself. You're thinking about the Creator, not the creation. It's almost impossible not to think about yourself in some way. I mean, either there's something you really love. Let's say some people, they take drugs or they get drunk or something like that. Then they're really thinking about yourself. And all the religions, you're just thinking about yourself all the time. All the time. I'm going to go to heaven. I'm going to do this. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do this. I'll sacrifice in order to go to heaven. You're thinking about yourself. Business, you think about yourself. Religion is a business. You invest your energy and you get results. That increases your soul. The purpose of Judaism is to give away your soul. Mesirut Nefesh. That's the whole basis of Judaism, is the story of Abraham taking his son to sacrifice him. A totally ridiculous story that Judaism is based on that. There's no miracles there. A man takes his son to kill him. That's the basis of Judaism. That's Abraham's big the covenant with God. He made. God promised him, right, your offspring will be a blessing to the whole world, because he took his son to kill him. It says the whole purpose of that story, it's imprinted in every siddur, every normal Jewish prayer book is written. Right? That's the essence of Judaism. What's the essence? What is it? That's called self-sacrifice. Abraham said, I'm going to do what you want, God. I'm not going to think about myself. And God said, oh yeah? Let's see. Take your son. It was already 37 years old. Take him and sacrifice him. He said, okay. Didn't think about it. That's insane. That makes no sense. He says, that's Judaism. That's Judaism. You don't think about yourself. You do what God wants because you know and believe that God is good. Somehow or other, it's going to be good. How is it going to be good? God forbid, maybe, I don't know if you have any children, right? Even the thought that something would happen to God forbid, my children, even to say the words, you don't even want to think about it, right? And for a Jewish father, especially a tzaddik like Abraham, to take his son, Yitzchak, who was 37 years old, and he was also a big tzaddik, and to take him and kill him with his own hands, it's the impossibles. And Abraham did it with happiness, it says. What was he happy? And he was happy because he was doing what God wanted. That's insane. That's Judaism. You're doing what God. I mean, you got to be sure what God wants. You just can't take your son, kill him. I'm going to be like, hey, God has to speak to you, right? Kill your next door neighbor. God spoke to me. I'm doing. Abraham was a special case, but nevertheless, that was the case where God really spoke to him and told him what to do, and he did the impossible, the most detestable thing to himself. That's called Mesirut Nefesh, and that's what we should have when we learn Torah. We do everything. We're not thinking about ourselves. I mean, I'm saying this. I can say it. I'm saying it very emotionally. I'm not saying I do it. I'm saying that I know I should do it, at least a little bit. At least when I say Echad in the morning, I pray to God. God, you are one. Every single Jew has this. That's the essence of Judaism. That's the essence, identity of what a Jew is. According to the Shulchan Aruch, if your mother is Jewish, or if you converted according to proper Jewish law, you're a Jew. But that's only external. And Judaism is a religion, and Judaism is a nation, and Judaism is a race, and Judaism is all these things, whatever you want to say. Or you could remove all those things, right? If you don't come from the nation, what is the essence of what a Jew is? This self-sacrifice, a special soul that has the ability only to think about the Creator and to do what the Creator wants, to love the Creator with all your heart, all your might. Says the Rebbe, every Jew has this. Even though every Jew might not have this in actuality, but every Jew certainly doesn't have it in potential. Even the biggest sinners of Israel, if he's a Jew, he has the self-sacrifice. Maybe it's not activated. Every Jew is able and willing to give his life for God. That especially you saw this in the time of the church. The church would try to force it. Now, in the last 50 years or something like that, they decided they can catch more flies with honey than they can with vinegar. I don't know, catch flies with honey. Anyway, so now the church decided they're going to be nice guys and they're going to be friendly and love Israel, etc. But their goal is to make all the Jews leave Judaism and be with their religion. They say their religion is Judaism. Who knows what they say? Anyway, so but it used to be since the church started, which is like 1,000 something, 800 years ago. So they would force Jews. And especially when in Europe they would burn Jews. Burning Jews, they would burn Jews at the stake. They would make pogroms. They would kill Jews. But if a Jew would say, "I'm changing my religion," they would let him live. Someone told me, I don't know if this is true, but the only time the Jews were not given a choice was with Hitler. Hitler looked and found if a Jew changed his religion, he would still kill him. But up to then, there was always the alternative, right? This is the miracle of Purim. They said that Haman wanted to kill all the Jews. If a Jew said, "I'm not a Jew," then they would let him live. And the whole miracle of Purim was not one Jew that said, "I'm willing to take that option. I'll just say I'm not Jewish." Anyway, that's what it was with the church also, that the Jews could say, "I'm not Jewish." And there were some Jews that opted out. They said, "Yes, I'm going to," that was the Moranos or whatever. But there were a lot of Jews, thousands of Jews, maybe even more, that said, "I'm not going to deny my Judaism. Burn me at the stake, kick me out of the country." But they evicted all the Jews. If a Jew would just change his religion, they would let him stay. So they evicted all the Jews because they refused to deny their Judaism. Now, I'm sure that there were among them there were Jews that weren't really so religious, but they just couldn't bear to say, "I'm not a Jew." Every Jew has this, whether it is in actuality or in just potential. They say by means of this, mitalim is elevated all of their things that they do, everything you do in the weekday to God. In Cain, if so, Hari, Masav Amat, and it ends up that business, the Esek Zeh, and doing whatever it is, working in the world, is something like what God does on Shabbat, when God takes into his possession all of the 6 days of creation on Shabbat, he pulls it all back into his. So that's the whole idea of the goal of Judaism, to reveal that this world is a good place. That's especially revealed by the businessmen. Says the Rebbe even more. Adarab, even more. In them, by the businessman, it says, Eshakecha, I will kiss you. Nishikim, working in the world in some ways is even higher than learning the Torah all day and night. As we're going to talk about, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's do the Malchut.